Brendan, how do you think this challenge will compare to the ones you've faced already this season in the Champions League?
Yeah, equally as tough, and I think the world probably thinks that you play really hard games against Atalanta and Red Bull Leipzig, and then everything else is fine. But it's the Champions League. Every game is a very, very tough game, and this game will be another big examination for us.
No one knew for sure at the start of this new format, but everyone's been speaking about 10 points as being that mark. How does it feel to have that within your sights tomorrow?
Yeah, well, the halfway point, I think 7 out of 12 we're really, really pleased with, and not just that. I think it's the performance level and in the competition that gives us confidence. But yeah, we get into our next run of games now, and like I say, we just want to accumulate as many points as we can. But I think 7 out of 12 is a really good start against the opponents that we've played.
How big an achievement would 10 be at this stage, if that is indeed the total that sees you at least into that playoff phase?
I've not really thought about it, really. We just, our objective is to get into the playoff phase first and foremost, and then we just have to see what points total that will take us. But for us, it really is focusing on this game and look to bring the performance level.
How beneficial is it to have the RB Leipzig performance and result as one for you to reference and try and do again ultimately?
Yeah, I think we've been building towards that over the last 14, 15 months. I think performance level last year, and even though we didn't quite get the results, the wins that we would want, performance level certainly indicated to me that we were growing and developing at the level. And now in 3 of the 4 games, we've shown a really high level of performance, different types of performances, but certainly the Red Bull game was a combination of everything that we would want. The physicality, the pressing in the team, the aggression, but also the calmness in our defending. And I think when you can go away to Atalanta and keep a clean sheet, I think that gave us great confidence that at the level and at the very highest level we can be strong defensively. And then we take that into the Red Bull game. Same idea, but then we've got the home crowd behind us as well, so then the level of our football then gets elevated and we overall produce a really consistent performance. So I think that there, along with some of the other performances we've had over the journey in the last 14 months, has given us a real good hope to keep progressing and developing this competition.
Is that something you've been stressing, Brendan, that calmness under pressure, almost embracing the pressure? Is that something you're particularly pleased with, that the message is getting through?
Yeah, because you're not going to, as much as you want to dominate, you're just not going to do it. You can't do it at this level. You're going to have spells where the opposition, who have real quality in their squad and in their team and will be very well coached, will make you suffer. And it's having that ability to suffer. And I think that was the great thing with the Leipzig game. We suffered. We went behind after making a really good start, so we had to weather a wee bit of a storm for 10 minutes or so. But then we grew back into the game again and then ran out very, very convincing winners. So, but you have to be ready for it, and that's something that we're developing all the time.
You said this will be a big examination for you tomorrow. How heartening is it for you that your opponents are almost certainly thinking the same thing, given your results here, Feyenoord, Bratislava, RB Leipzig? It's becoming the fortress that you wanted, or the difficult game for your opponents that you've wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's for us, again, another opportunity to show the power of Celtic Park. Like, I've got absolutely no doubt that every team and their supporters will feel that their football ground is special, and really special to be that, to play there, and I respect that. But I know this club, and I know the fans, and I know the stadium, so I know how special it really is to play here and how difficult it can be. But what you have to be able to do is then match that with the performance, and that's something that has really pleased me in these recent home games in the Champions League. So it's not just a tick box for players to come here and clubs to come and say they've played at Celtic Park, but it's to come and realise you're going to be in for a game here. And that combination of the support base and the team making it a really difficult night.
I wonder then, is this the best team that you've had in all your times here, this new level that you've now reached?
No, it's just different. I think the team I had here in the first spell was an outstanding team. This team is a different team, but it's a different generation and a different quality. So, but I've been very happy with the progress of how we've been. If you think of this time last year to where we are now, 12 months later, we're in a really good place with lots of progression still to make.
Brendan, you talk about expectation at the start there. Sorry, over here. How do you assess how that's changed from the start of the competition? The expectation of what's kind of how the team are going to perform now.
I think my own expectation is that I have that belief that we can come in and perform, and I think the players believe that as well. But we have the humility to understand that you have to really work at this level. But I think I see that in the team anyway. You know, I think we played 19 games this season, won 16, drew 2 and lost 1 to a Champions League finalist. So that tells me that the mentality in the team is there, the spirit in the team is there, the grit in the team is there, and that we'll never quit in a game. So that always gives you confidence as a manager that you're going to go into to these games and perform. So, and that's all we want to do. We want to make it really, really difficult for teams to play against us, and we know that we're going to have to suffer at times, but that's the level. And but I'm really excited again about coming to Celtic Park and seeing the game tomorrow evening.
Having that grit after a kind of difficult start in the competition, is that something you didn't doubt?
No, it's something that you have to experience. I think that's Robert what is key. That that failure is a part of the journey. And I said it at the time and was probably looked at a bit funny, but it can be that trampoline effect and it can bounce you back even higher. But it's how you deal with it, which is important. So dealing with the setback that we had that night, you can see where it's trampolined the players and bounced them forward. So it's all in how you react to the difficult moments. So this team have shown that and proven that, and I believe there's still a lot more to come.
Yeah. Brendan, what specific dangers did the Bruges offer? Obviously, they're very experienced in Europe in recent times, but what are the specific challenges of facing them?
I think they're really good organisation. I think, you know, watch some of the games they've had, and I watched the Villa game. Very well coached. You can see they know their role, they know their jobs. The front line's fast and dynamic. Like you say, Simon, the goalkeeper I had at Liverpool, a very experienced guy who's very calm, and so that mix of real young, hungry players and who have had experience at the level. And teams at Club Brugge they're not teams that are probably spoken about a lot, maybe in the same echelons of some of these other big names and big teams, but these are teams that you cannot underestimate. They're very experienced at the level. Got some fantastic players, a very good coach who stepped up and taken them and works them very, very well. So we have to be mindful of that. So for us, we know that, been analysing them and watching them. But what you would expect at this level, dynamic team, creative, will run, will work hard, and so it'll be a difficult opponent for us.
Stephen. Brendan, have you seen the impact of the power of Celtic Park, as you refer to, having an impact on opponents? Is that a real thing?
Oh, there's no doubt. I think it's probably more you see from when you listen to other players, but also I listen to my own players. Just that it's the feeling that it brings here. You know, it's and we don't take it for granted. It's one that I hope when I came back here it was to connect it, which was to have that off the field, that fire and that passion and emotion, and bring that onto the field as well with performance level and a level of football that excites. So that was the challenge, and you can see when that is all connected, what it brings, like the RB Leipzig, the feeling then it gives, not just for that night, but the supporters the next day and for days after, the feeling of watching their team compete at a European level and play a level of football. So that's what we want to bring, and it definitely does. And like as you say, you spoke to some of the players afterwards, experienced players, the impact that the stadium brings. So we have to use that. We have to connect with that spirit and continue to make it really difficult.
Brendan, you spoke to Robert about the belief that the team have now got and how they've embraced things. But is there a message there that you'll kind of never crack the Champions League code, if you like? You've always got to be on, warning that things can go. That you're always learning. Things can be tricky. Never think you've ever got it sussed.
No. Especially with the greatest respect, clubs like ourselves, it's always we have to bring our ability at the highest level into every game if we're going to have that opportunity to progress. It's a brutal competition in terms of the level, and the slightest mistakes get punished. And like you say, you can be really, like we had in the Leipzig game. We started the game really well, 15 minutes, and then we gave the ball away once. It leads to a corner, then you concede, and then all of a sudden you're on the back foot for 10 minutes. But we all know that. I think we've all seen it enough. You have to be laser focused in your concentration. You're bringing your performance level, and then, like I said, make it really difficult for the opponent.
Hi Brendan, just a bit on Bruges and their game against Milan. They got a lot of their success through fast, aggressive counter-attacks. Mm-hmm. They would sort of look to win the ball around the halfway line, just inside their half, and then outnumber Milan on the counter-attack, just flooding the half and getting as many chances as they can. And they were arguably unlucky not to be 2 or 3 goals up in the first sort of 10-15 minutes. Mm-hmm. What can Celtic put in place, or what can you put in place to sort of prevent this? And does the sort of way they play and the way they look to go up the park, does that affect your team selection?
No, it's a good question in terms of the tactic of the game. It's something that I've been aware of right back to pre-season. So if you think of how we've played in those City games and Chelsea games where we were building with 3, the Leipzig game where at times we're building with 3, having Greg going in. So that gives you then 5 behind the ball and gives you 5. Sometimes you can release one of them to go and attack. But counter-pressing is a big part of our game. I think in order to stop counter-attacks, counter-press is something that's in our makeup now. Getting to the ball for a little simple example of that was again at the weekend against Hearts. Now, our first goal comes from, and to the eye it just looks like the defender just gets rid of the ball. But what pleased me was we obviously have the run into depth. It doesn't quite get there, but the impulsive action of Cal was to jump forward. And jumping forward those extra few yards means that when the defender goes to clear it, we're there. And then we get the bit of fortune that rebounds. If he doesn't move, if he stands still, the guy's clearance is okay. He'll go away and they'll defend their box. So the counter-press mentality is what stops counter-attack, and then making sure you defend the space behind the ball. So you've always got to protect at this level, because if you're too open and you don't cover your spaces, then these, like other teams, will have fast players that can exploit that.
Christos Tzolis is someone who could cause a lot of issues for Celtic tomorrow night. He's the Bruges left winger. Scored 4 goals in 48 minutes at the weekend. He's got an average SOFA score rating of 7.71 in his last 10 starts, which, and just to give a comparison, Nicholas Kuhn has an average of 6.6, so that kind of tells us who we're up against in terms of the quality of player. With Alistair Johnson already on a booking from a recent European game, is it important we nullify Bruges before the ball gets to him so that it's a less of a possibility of maybe a foul being committed? Because he's a player that does get fouled as well, because in his last 10 games, again, he's been fouled on an average of 1.9 times, so just under 2. And Alistair Johnson commits an average of 1.2 fouls per game. So is it, again, important that we nullify Bruges before the ball gets to him to sort of prevent maybe an issue for the next game where Alistair Johnson might not be available?
Yes. That's it. You said it. He's a very good player. He was a young player at Norwich. I remember him there, and I've seen him obviously recently for Greece as well, where I thought he was excellent. So yeah, we have to guard against all of that.
Just finally, away from home, Bruges concede a lot of high goal scoring opportunities, and a man like you said recently, you signed at Liverpool for £9 million, and at the time quoted him as one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League. Mignolet, he's kept him in a few games recently. Is it important that Celtic take these opportunities when they get them, so that we have the best possibility of a win or a result tomorrow night, because it's important that we win our home games.
You sound very nervous. It's okay. Don't, just relax.
It's important that we take these chances.
Absolutely. That's the level, son. That's the level. It's you got to be really efficient. First of all, on Simon, he at the time at Sunderland, he was, like you say, he was a fantastic goalkeeper in the Premier League, and he came into Liverpool and done really, really well. So, and I haven't seen him for a long time, so it'll be good to see him. But yeah, he's a very good shot stopper. He's obviously got a lot of experience, good coming for crosses, and so yeah. But I just think it's the level. Like you say, we've shown that we can score goals at the level and score a lot of goals at the level. So you have to be really efficient. But I don't have a worry about us scoring the goals. I'm just really looking forward to us playing our game and playing to the level that we want to. We know we're playing against a very, very good opposition, and we'll be ready to try and control as much as that as we can.
Cameron kind of hinted at it before you came in, but in terms of the likes of Arne and Casper, who've obviously played against Bruges, how much can they help just in terms of little nuggets or whatnot that they've picked up playing against them or through them throughout the years?
Maybe from their own selves, they might. They'll maybe know some of the players. Obviously, Arne had come through there, and like you say, Casper playing against them. But I haven't spoke directly to them on anything. It'll be more for them own selves. They might speak to the players, but yeah, but we've done all our analysis on them, and that they will reiterate, I'm sure, that they're a good side. But we're at home, and this is where we want to show, like I said, our power, and we've shown that in the last numbers of games here in the Champions League, and when we do that, it's given them something to really, really worry about. So that's our plan.
How's the squad after Hearts in terms of coming through injuries or whatnot? How's the squad looking?
Yeah, in a good place. It was obviously coming back after the international break is always a challenge. I've found that we've not certainly been perfect in our rhythm. You know, the 3 games that we've played all after international break, we've done well, but we've just not been quite in the same flow. But the case was, you know, we'd 8 of the 11 players started on international duty, and that always breaks the rhythm. You know, I'd seen one of our players in a pressing action, which was his international team's pressing action, but not ours. But it's just something that happens because they've been away for a couple of weeks. So, but the idea was to get them through it. They've all come through it really well, and we obviously fit squad to pick from.
Looking to buy a car? Click the link below.